We're at the seaside for race 2 of the weekend for the ADAC GT Masters here at Zandvoort, but as you can see from the picture there, it's not especially seaside weather. We've had sunshine over this weekend. We have also had drops of rain. There were a few spots of rain during the qualifying session this morning, but those dark clouds are looking very ominous indeed. Current air temperature at 21.6 degrees. The track is cooling down, 27.8. There are showers on the way. The question is, will they arrive during this race? At the moment, it's slick tyres. It's very much as you were. It's great to see some spectators here for round 3 of the ADAC GT Masters. It's race 6 of a 14-race season, 2 races each weekend. It's the last race outside of Germany for 2021, and after this we head back to the more classic circuits of Nürburgring, Lausitzring, Sachsenring and Hockenheim. You can see there the pole sitter Dries Vanthoor did a great job in qualifying this morning, putting the team WRT Audi on pole position. And there is Dries Vanthoor just listening in, as one does. And he's sharing with Charles Witt the car that is second on the grid, Frank Pereira, in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo for GRT Grasser Racing, and he will be sharing with Rolf Nijken. Didn't have the best of days yesterday, finished 17th. Dries Vanthoor, Charles Witt, our pole sitter, finished 5th yesterday. This was the car that was looking odds on to win yesterday, the GRT Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini, driven by Albert Costa Balboa and Mirko Bortolotti. But a pit stop infringement saw them taken out of the lead and having to take a drive-through penalty, relegated them all the way down in 12th place. And suddenly the championship challengers were on the back foot and had a lot of work to do. 4th on the grid is that car there, the Man Filter Team Landgraf Mercedes, driven by Raffaele Marciello. And the hair's no longer green, he's had it cut. But it was a traumatic qualifying session for Marciello. Was looking good to improve on his position, and then made a mistake, ended up buried deep in the gravel trap, bringing out a red flag. 4th place, pretty reasonable considering that. Marvin Kirchhofer starts 5th in the Callaway's competition Corvette, the historic team in historic car, the growl of the Corvette, sharing driving duties, as you can see there, with Jeffrey Schmidt, who will be taking over at some point during the race. Look at those clouds in the background. There's Jules Gounon, starting 6th on the grid for Team Zakspeed, and Jules Gounon sharing duties with Igor Velilko. And they will have been looking at the Gt4 race that has just finished, and that was an exciting race, punctuated by a couple of fires and many safety cars, but it was Zakspeed who won that one for the 2nd time this weekend, and they will be looking to repeat that feat. They're going to have their work cut out from 6th on the grid, a lot of work to do from there. And there's Dennis Marshall, the Rutronic Racing by Teke team. And of course, they have won this championship before. Dennis Marshall would dearly love to be at the wheel when they do it again. And he, along with Kim Louis Schramm, is driving that car. So we're getting ready for the race to start. There's been a slight delay getting things rolling because of all the traumas in the previous GT4 race. So I think they're still sweeping the track, to be quite honest. There's a legendary name, Marcus Winkelhock, in the Car Collection Motorsport Audi, starting 8th on the grid. Now, that was a very good qualifying session for him. And he, along with Florian Spengler, is driving that car. And Winkelhock, a name that you associate with motorsport and especially German motorsport. And Marcus Winkelhock will be looking to improve on a best place of 11th so far, and that was in yesterday's race. Patrick Niederhauser, a former champion in the Phoenix Racing Audi, and we've got a new livery for this weekend. Very bright indeed, and very distinctive. You can spot that in a crowd, which is always very good. And he is sharing with a graduate from the ADAC GT4 category, and that is Yusuf Awega, who will also be in the driving seat of that car later on in the race. So Patrick Niederhauser climbing on board, and we're hoping they can get this race going fairly soon. because those clouds are closing in, as Marco Mappelli. Now, there's a driver who is in the number 82 GRT Grasser Racing Lamborghini Huracan, and Mappelli is taken over from Max Hofer, who was in that seat at the Red Bull Ring, and Stein Skottors, who was in that seat in Oschersleben. Tim Zimmermann is the other pilot, and he has partaken in all 3 events so far, but clearly is a bit of a musical seat, the second one. So it'll be interesting to see whether Marco Mappelli is still in that when we get to Nürburgring, or whether it will be somebody else. Christopher Haase very much in the wars yesterday in the Monteplas by Land Motorsport car. Christopher Haase will go down in history as the first ever winner of the ADAC GT Masters title. And Carl was looking to stick the second hand after a little bit of banger racing up on turn 3 yesterday. He starts 11th place, and he is sharing driving duties with Lucas Sandro Treves, another GT4 graduate. There's the driver, or the car, that's making the headlines. It started on pole position yesterday and won the race in the hands of Christopher Mies and Ricardo Feller. Not such a good day today, starting 12th on the grid. They're currently 2nd in the championship, so they've got a lot of work to do from there. The driver yesterday that finished 2nd was Lucas Stoltz, along with Murrow Engel, at the wheel of the Mercedes AMG Team TopSport WRT car, a distinctive pink and blue livery. They recorded their first non-finish in a very long time, last time out at Red Bull Ring, as a result of a very large accident, which Murrow Engel comprehensively destroyed that Mercedes. Not his fault, we hasten to add, but caught up in someone else's accident. The Precoat Herbert's Motorsport Porsche of Robert Renauer starts 14th on the grid, and he is sharing driving duties with Sven Muller. And there's Sven giving us a wave, thumbs up. He's all smiles under that mask, saying, please don't smash the car up, I've got to drive it later on. There's the championship leader, Mikael Ammermuller. Now, they did not have the best of qualifying sessions this morning. The SSR Performance Porsche starting way down in 15th. A lot of work to do there. They're a long way ahead in the points at the moment, but you can see 13 points. And Mathieu Jaminet will be sharing driving in that car, but a lot of work to do if they want to extend that championship lead. Mies and Feller just a little ahead of them. 3rd in the points, Yellow Lee and Crone even further down on the grid, and we'll no doubt see them shortly. There's the future of GT racing, Hugo Sasser, a real entertainer for T3 Motorsport. He's sharing with Maximilian Paul, and another one that's come from Gt4 Racing and a real talent in GT racing is Hugo Sasser. And he's only about 17 years old and drives that Lamborghini like an experienced veteran. There's Thomas Preining starting 17th on the grid for KUS Team Bernhard, the legendary team run by Timo Bernhard. And Thomas Preining in the number 75 car will be sharing duties with ex-champion Christian Engelhardt. And there is the aforementioned Schubert Motorsport BMW starting all the way down in 18th place. Jesse Krohn really not getting to grips with that BMW M6 in qualifying this morning. They are championship contenders and have finished on the podium in all bar 2 races. Nick Yellowly, the formerly Racing Point Aston Martin Formula 1 team development driver, sharing duties in that car. There's Norbert Seidler and the Yako Racing Team Audi, a very pretty gold livery, the number 54 car. And they are starting down in 19th place. So good to have a little bit of extra time at the start here. We actually get to see some of these cars further down the grid. Now there's a car, number 91 of Marco Holzer and David Jahn, with Holzer starting off in the Team Use Sportwagen Technique Porsche 911 GT3, qualified 6th for yesterday's race, but had a problem on the grid and had to start from the pit lane, but made great progress up to 13th place. So that was very impressive indeed. Mick Wieshofer, a name that has been doing the rounds for a little while now in the MRS GT Racing Porsche 911. Looking to improve on a 19th place finish from yesterday, and probably not got to grips with this track in a way that he'd wanted to. Simona De Silvestro, we saw her in the Indy 500 a few weeks ago, and she is sharing the Preco Herberth Motorsport Porsche with Klaus Bachler. Klaus, another legend in his own lunchtime. There's Pierre Caffer in the number 11 Rutronic Racing by Teki Audi, and Caffer along with Elia Earhart. Their best result so far has been a couple of 16th places. Hendrik Still, another graduate from the ADAC GT4 in the Team Zack Speed Mercedes, and Hendrik Still sharing with Konstantin Skoll in the Junior Championship. And there's the other of the KUS Team Bernhard Porsches, Dylan Pereira. He knows everything there is to know about Porsches, and along with Yanis Fitcher, will be driving that car for the duration of this race. Right, the engines are started, and very shortly we will be starting on this formation lap. We want to get on with it before the rain comes. It was rain that made race 2 at Oschersleben particularly spectacular, but we quite like it in the dry as well. We look at Dries Vanthoor getting ready to lead the field away. It looks so good, lined up Le Mans style along the pit straight. These GT3 cars roaring into life, something that's pretty unique to the ADAC, this kind of start, and always very spectacular. Great to see an audience. Look at that on the right hand side, on the left hand side. There's an audience in the stands, something we have got used to not having over the last year. Really pleased that we've been able to get 3,000 spectators in per day, and hopefully this is a big step back towards normality in these dark times that we've all been enduring. We can't wait for those stands to be full up once again, and we can get back to doing things properly. Right, we're going to have a proper look at the grid now. Row 1, Dries Vanthoor on pole position alongside Frank Pereira, then Albert Costa Balboa and Raffaele Marciello after that trip into the gravel that brought out the red flags in qualifying. Marvin Kirchhofer in the roaring Corvette is next up alongside Jules Gounod, and then it's Dennis Marshall with Marcus Winkelhock in the Car Collection Motorsport Audi. Row 5, Patrick Niederhausen, former champion, and Marco Mappelli guesting for this event in the GRT Grasser Lamborghini. Then Christopher Haster alongside yesterday's winner, Christopher Mies, who shares duties with Ricardo Bella. Row 7 of the grid is Lucas Stoltz, championship contender with Maro Engel, and Sven Muller and Robert Renauer. They are also real contenders in the championship. Championship leaders, Mikael Ammermuller and the young Hugo Sasser line up on the next row, which is row 8 of the grid. Then it's Thomas Breining and Jesse Krohn, a long way back in that Schubert Motorsport BMW. Row 10 of the grid, and it's Norbert Seidler and Marco Holzer in the Rapid Team U Sport Wagen Technique Porsche. Then on row 11 of the grid, it's Mick Wiesofer and Simona De Silvestro in the other of the Preco Herberth Motorsport Porsches. Row 12 of the grid, yeah, Caffer and Hendrik Still. And then a couple of cars that we haven't seen yet in shot. Row 13, it's Dylan Pereira and Clemens Schmid in another of the GRT Grasser Racing Lamborghinis. And then bringing up the rear, Sebastian Ash, Daniel Karvitz brought out a safety car yesterday going into the fence at the very beginning of the race. So this will be the first opportunity Sebastian Ash, the 2 times champion of GT Masters, will have had behind the wheel this weekend. You can see the points championship there. It's still very close. Chamonix and Ammermuller haven't got it all their own way, especially when you look at where they qualified for this race. We're in the closing stage of the formation lap, up the big steep bankings at this revised circuit Zandvoort, a track that has 14 turns, 10 to the right and 4 to the left. It extends to 4.259 kilometers, which equates to about 2.646 miles. And that is what these cars are going to be competing for the next hour. It's race 2 of the weekend, round 3 of the ADAC GT Masters here from Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands. Red lights are out, we are go. It's Dries Vanthoor even, who stares off pole position, leading into the first corner. Look at Raffaele Marciello, they're hanging it out, trying to make up for that poor qualifying this morning. Marciello had his nose up into second place. He's managed to muscle in front of the Lamborghini. The rest of the cars come streaming through. Two Lamborghinis side by side up onto the high banking of turn 3. 19 degrees of banking. The car's able to take an awful lot of speed there. The rest of the field comes streaming through as Dries Vanthoor leads the way. And Frank Pereira, who started second, has dropped back. And it is Raffaele Marciello who's up into second place. Here they come on the first lap. Dries Vanthoor, Raffaele Marciello, and that is Jesse Krohn into the gravel track championship contenders. The Schubert Motorsport BMW, has he kept it going? That is the question. We haven't seen it emerge from the gravel. Yes, he has, so all is not lost, but that BMW is going to be stone last. Nick Yellerly is going to have an awful lot of work to do in that car when he takes over, but that will be a little bit later on, and that's assuming there isn't any damage to that car. So, drama early on the first laps through the Hans Ernst chicane up towards Kumo, and then it's flat out all the way round the Ari Luijendijk banking, which is turn 14. Here comes the snake of cars. It's Dries Vanthoor leading the way. Raffaele Marciello, what a great start he had, making up for what was a poor qualifying. Across the line they go to complete the first lap of the race. Albert Costa Balboa in third place ahead of Frank Pereira and Marvin Kirchhofer. And our defending champions, the number 92, Mikael Amamola, is working hard further back, but is really bogged down in the traffic. And great line these drivers take up into turn 3. You see bits of dirt on the track as well. Here comes the 22 top sport of Lucas Stoltz, trying to pick up positions. His first few laps are critical, but Jesse Krohn going to come into the pits, and this is not looking good for their championship challenge. They already had a non-finish, and you can see there it looked like something had broken before it went into the gravel. You can see the smoke coming from the left quarter of the car, and it really was quite a scrum back in the pack, and it's always the way when you're that far back. And then it was the contact that caused the Schubert Motorsport front wheel to get damaged. The suspension is damaged, and it looks like that car is not going to be going much further. There's not a lot of urgency about it in the pits. The car is parked up. Have another look at the start, and Vanthoor was quite a long way ahead when the lights went green, and I don't think it was a jump start, but it certainly helped in Raffaele Marciello's cause to get round the outside of Frank Pereira and also Albert Costa Balboa. And Jules Gounon out there in the other of the Zakspeed Mercedes, and there's the cars going straight on, and there was a spinner at the back as well. That was Pierre Caffer, and Nick Wiesofer was the other one into the gravel. As is the view from the Corvette of Marvin Kirchhofer. Looking at a replay, and up towards turn 3, great camera shot, and you can see how close it was. And this is the view from Raffaele Marciello, and you can see that Vanthoor really caught Frank Pereira napping. Marciello ducks to the outside and almost makes it round into the lead, into Tarzan. Really good job. So Marciello picking up a bit of a slipstream from Dries Vanthoor. And this is the view from Albert Costa Balboa. And you can see Marciello just hanging it out on the corner. Incredibly close. And of course, the balance of performance, meaning that these cars very equal, whether they're front engined, rear engined. And there's smoke coming from the 63 car going into the corner on the replay. That's just locking up a wheel. And looking back from Raffaele Marciello at Albert Costa Balboa, locking up into the corner. So the incident that we witnessed is under investigation. You can see the two Lamborghinis in third and fourth have dropped back slightly, and Marvin Kirchhofer in the Corvette looking particularly good as he closes in on the two GRT Grasser Lamborghinis. Albert Costa Balboa really keen to make up for the penalty they had yesterday. They were looking like winners of the race until the drive-through penalty put them down into the mid-pack. And here again is that lock-up into the corner, and it did allow Frank Pereira to find a route through. And that was the view from the Callaway's competition Corvette. So the Corvette is through past the Lamborghini, and you can see the 63 car, Albert Costa Balboa, dropping backwards following that lockup. And this is the view that he has of that Corvette. On the front, Dries Vanthoor continues to pull away. Raffaele Marciello is next. And then Frank Pereira, who's made up for that poor start a little bit in third place. Here they come across the line. It's half a second to the good for Dries Vanthoor over Raffaele Marciello. And again, a Lamborghini locking up into the corner. Looks like he's got a bit of a problem with the braking there, because locking up into the corner consistently. Jules Gounon now sees an opportunity. Gounon in 6th place, can see 5th place right in front of him, and is looking for a way past. So Jules Gounon turning the heat up on Albert Costa Balboa. And whether there is an issue with that Lamborghini that's causing him to lock up into the corner, but whichever way, that car seems to be struggling at the moment. We have 52 minutes left of this race. Just to remind you, there will be a mandatory pit stop and driver change required. The pit window will open 25 minutes into this race, all being well, at which point there will be 10 minutes in which all cars will need to visit the pit lane for a mandatory stop and driver change. You can see from your graphic that there's no further action following that incident on turn 2. So it's very much as you were, and the stewards get a moment off briefly. Jules Gounon closing in still on Albert Costa Balboa. So the string of cars behind Albert Costa Balboa would also indicate that he hasn't got the pace that he was enjoying earlier on in the weekend. And Marvin Kirchhofer and Frank Pereira continue to break free. 0.2 increase on the gap between first and second. Raffaele Marciello, 0.7 of a second behind. And again, locking up into the corner. Clearly there's an issue with the Albert Costa Balboa Lamborghini. He's not going to be able to hold off that Mercedes for much longer. Into turn 2 they come. And up on to the steep banking of turn 3. The Lamborghini taking a very deep run into the corner. Here comes Jules Gounon. Hasn't got the horsepower to get past. But Albert Costa Balboa, with the brake locking up on regular occasions, surely is going to end up surrendering that position before too long. That's the number 63 car of Albert Costa Balboa in 5th place that we're focusing on. This is the closest battle on the track as Jules Gounon stacked up behind then Marcus Winkelhock. Then it's Dennis Marshall in the queue as well. And it looks like Patrick Niederhauser also lining up to have a go at that Lamborghini. Here comes Gounon again, trying to pressure Costa Balboa into a mistake that will force him to lock a wheel up. Doesn't need to do that. He just finds a space on the inside and he's through. But the Zaxby Mercedes is past the Lamborghini in the Hans Ernst chicane and instantly opens up a gap. Marcus Winkelhock having his best race in a long while. Now looking at the back of Albert Costa Balboa, Winkelhock in 7th place. So across the line they come, and while there's a bit of a gap, I'll tell you about that graphic that you can see on your screen. For each completed lap of all GT Masters cars, BWT and ADAC are jointly donating €4 to the Be Water mission. And the Be Water mission builds wells in primarily rural areas in Gambia and Tanzania to ensure access to clean drinking water. It's been great, the money that has already been donated as a result of that sponsorship. And it's really good to see the ADAC doing something that really contributes back to the environment and the world. As we look at a replay of Jules Gounon finding a route past Albert Costa Balboa and into 5th place. So we've got, great applause in the Zaxby team as they see Jules Gounon moving forward. We've still got a little way to go before the pit window opens, and Gounon has left Albert Costa Balboa by some distance. Dries Vanthoor showing as a 0.827 second lead over Raffaele Marciello. Marciello, who won the first race of the season for the GT Masters, but hasn't had that much luck ever since. And doing well after his trip into the gravel trap this morning. On to turn 14 we come again. And of course the banking, the 18-degree banking, allowing the drivers to run flat out into turn 13. That effectively extends the pit straight up around the corner. Again, Costa Balboa locking up into the corner, clearly carrying an issue. But the cars bringing a lot more speed out of turn 14 onto the pit straight, giving them a better opportunity at overtaking into turn 1, the Tarzan turn. So Costa Balboa now with Marcus Winkelhock for company, and Dennis Marshall just waiting in the wings as well. So Albert Costa Balboa, clearly some issue that's causing him to lock up into some of the corners. A brake snatching, a pad issue. And if that happens again, Winkelhock is positioning himself ready to take advantage. You can see him just staying as close as possible to Albert Costa Balboa, trying to encourage him to brake that little bit harder and to make that mistake that allows him through. And you can see the cars queuing up behind Christopher Haase now also in the back of that queue. And the Costa Balboa Lamborghini proving to be a little bit of a cork in the bottle at the moment because it's carrying an issue. The other of the GRT Grasser Lamborghinis, well, one of them anyway, Frank Pereira is up in P3. No such issues for him. So the gap now a little over a second between Vanthoor and Marciello. Then Frank Pereira, Marvin Kirchhofer, Jules Gounon, and then this battle we're looking at here. Albert Costa Balboa, Marcus Winkelhock, Dennis Marshall, and you can see how big that lead is between 1st and 6th as we saw the cars going down the pit straight, and at the same time Dries Vanthoor on the opposite side of the circuit coming round. So this is our 1, 2, 3. And then Marvin Kirchhofer running very much alone. So when the pit window opens, and that'll be when the clock reads 35, it will be strategy time. Will the teams bring a driver in if they're in traffic in the hope of getting them out into some clean air? If a driver is currently out in clean air, will they leave them out a bit longer to make the most of the clear track in front of them before bringing them in for the mandatory pit stop? It's all about the teamwork, it's all about the strategy, and there's a 10-minute window in which that will take place when the clock strikes 35. At the moment, Albert Costa Balboa will probably be quite pleased to hand this Lamborghini over to Mirko Bortolotti, because clearly he's not enjoying it at the moment. And Marcus Winkelhock continues to put the heat on. Marcus Winkelhock, who's had an 11th place as his best finish of the year so far. That was yesterday. And if he can get past Costa Balboa and set after Jules Gounon, he'd be very happy about that. And while Costa Balboa is creating this bottleneck, the cars in front, 1st and 5th, are stretching their legs further up the road. So they're wandering back to the pits, and that looks like Pierre Caffer to me. So Pierre Caffer, who's out of this race, wandering through the sand dunes, enjoying the weather here in Zandvoort. And we haven't spoken about the weather for a while because that is always at the front of our minds. The showers that have been forecast all day today have yet to come. We need it to hold out for about another 45 minutes. You can see there that view Conditions 21.5 degrees, so the temperature is holding. The track temperature has dropped a little though, so it's a little bit cooler. Great view of Circuit Park in Zandvoort. I call it Circuit Park, that's his old name. It is now just Circuit Zandvoort. We're about 20 kilometres from Amsterdam, and we're right on the North Sea dunes of Netherlands. We are on the seafront and surrounded by sand dunes, which create issues in themselves because when there's a wind, it blows sand onto the race surface, causing traction issues. Tyre degradation, also an issue here, particularly with the new banked corners. The cars are cornering at very high speeds, and tyre degradation is very high. Drivers needing to look after their tyres in the early part of the race so that they've got something left when they hand it over to their co-drivers in the second half of the race. And these corners, taken flat out, really do take their toll on these tyres that the drivers are running. As they cross the line once again, it's Dries Van Tor leading the way, 1.2 seconds now of Rafael Di Marciello. And then it's from Carrera, Marvin Kirchhofer. Our championship leader, Mikael Ammermuller, is in 16th place, currently out of the points. And that is not a position that they are accustomed to. The SSR Performance Porsche, the lowest it's finished so far this year has been a 7th place at race 1 in Oschersleben. And the SSR Performance team will be thinking long and hard about what to do when the pit window opens and whether to bring Ammermuller in early so that he can hand over to Mathieu Jaminet and hopefully get him out on a bit of open track and make up some of the time that they're losing, caught up in this traffic jam at the moment. And in this traffic jam is Dylan Pereira, who is Thomas Preining in 15th place, just ahead, and Robert Renauer in front of him. And it really does feel like a bit of a traffic jam, and you get the feeling that if Mikael Ammermuller can get some space, he'd probably make some better progress. We've lost Jesse Krohn and we've lost Pierre Capper so far. We saw Jesse Krohn going off into the gravel and damaging the BMW following an impact. But we still have 25 cars out on track with 42 minutes of this race still remaining. The closest battle is Albert Costa Balboa, and he has pretty well everybody from 6th backwards lining up behind him. The reason being he's clearly carrying an issue, and the issue is to do with braking, and every so often we see him locking that wheel up going into the corner. I should think the tyres on that Lamborghini are going to be shaped like 50p pieces by the time this race is over. There's going to be a lot of vibration, and clearly he's struggling for pace. But he's not slow enough to allow Marcus Winkelhock to find a route past. And when the pit window opens, I'd expect to see a lot of the cars behind Costa Balboa taking an early stop in the hope of getting out into some clearer space. The pit window is going to open in about 6.5 minutes, just under 6.5 minutes. And again, smoking the rear tyre into the corner. This time he goes deep. Can Winkelhock take advantage of it? He ducks to the inside. Surely Winkelhock is going to run out of patience before too long. Still, Albert Costa Balboa holds on to that 6th place. Look at the traffic jam behind. That Lamborghini clearly struggling. Winkelhock into the hands-on chicane, under braking, and now back on the accelerator towards Kumo, turn 13. And still, Costa Balboa holds on. This is Christmas to the cars in front. The top 5 cars that are running are able to pull away. Jules Gounon is pulling clear of Albert Costa Balboa. And again, Costa Balboa locking up into that corner. There's 8 seconds between Costa Balboa and Jules Gounon, who's up ahead. 8 seconds will feel like an eternity, and it's going to be hard for any of these cars to make it up unless there is a safety car of some sort. So the top 5 really getting a cushion as a result of this fight that you're seeing on your screen now. It's still Costa Balboa in 6th place. Winkelhock pounding him, trying to push him into a mistake so that he can get past. Also there, Dennis Marshall, Patrick Niederhauser, Christopher Harster, Marco Mobelli, Lucas Stoltz, they're all queued up, ready to go. And Mikael Ammermuller, the championship leader and defending champion, is still hauled up in 16th place because of the traffic jam in front. Big Hawk taking a very different line into the corner, still looking for a way past that Lamborghini, still can't find a way through. Here comes the snake of cars. Into the Hans-Ernst chicane yet again. 12 laps completed of this race. Vantor leads from Marciello. They're all pretty well spaced out, the first 5 are. And then it's this giant traffic jam behind Albert Costa Balboa. Marcus Winkelhock. So they cross the line again. Albert Costa Balboa lapping something in the region of 2 seconds a lap slower than the cars in front of him, the 5 cars in front of him, lapping in the mid 135s, and Costa Balboa lapping in the low 137s. So definitely an issue with pace on that Lamborghini. Cars bouncing over the bumps. You can see the marbles at the side of the track, rubber that has rolled off the tyres. It means there's very little grip if you get offline here, and it means that making a challenge is a risky business. And Marcus Winkelhock, if he makes a move on Costa Balboa and it doesn't stick, he's going to open the door to that entire train of cars that comes through, and he could find himself relegated 6 to 10 places in one go. So here we go. Now he's on the inside of Albert Costa Balboa. There's a little bit of contact in the chicane. That's exactly what's happened. He's gone wide. That's allowed Dennis Marshall through. Marshall's going, let me have a go. And Winkelhock did well to only lose 1 place. There was a bit of contact there. And Patrick Niederhauser's got problems. You saw contact on the Phoenix Racing Audi, the distinctive bright yellow and black new livery for this event, and Niederhauser looks to be dropping backwards. So finally, somebody gets past Costa Balboa. Have another look at that. You can see, heading into the chicane, there's a gap. Winkelhock goes for it. They make contact. Winkelhock backs out of it, and in so doing, allows Dennis Marshall to come through. And I have to say that all credit to Winkelhock for backing out of it, because he probably could have kept his foot in and bounced that Lamborghini out of the way. So Costa Balboa lives to fight another day, but now he's got Marshall as his challenger instead of Marcus Winkelhock. So Dennis Marshall, one of the younger drivers in the number 33 car in the Junior Championship, and the GRT Grasser team looking on from behind the cushion. Meanwhile, another of their cars, Front Pereira, is starting to wind in Raffaele Marciello. So the front 5 cars, although they're well clear of Albert Costa Balboa in 6, may well soon be together on the track. There's still this queue behind Albert Costa Balboa, and in fact, they've got past Costa Balboa now, so 3 cars are past. It's Dennis Marshall, Marcus Winkelhock. Finally, they've found a route past, and Albert Costa Balboa is going to sink a little bit further back down the field. Next up behind him is Christopher Harster. Winkelhock now taking a look at Dennis Marshall. Marshall slams the door into turn 1, the Tarzan turn. Visibility into that corner not so good since they built that brick wall on the exit of the pit lane, but a great opportunity for overtaking, but not so for Marcus Winkelhock. Up high into the turn 3 banking they come up the hill. It's a blind crest as they head up towards Chivlak, which is turn 7, and the Albert Costa Balboa train continues, albeit with some different cars behind now, and the very experienced Christopher Harser and Lucas Stoltz will be impatient to get past that Lamborghini. Pit window is open. So very shortly, we will see some of these cars into the pits, and I wouldn't mind betting that some of the cars that were behind Albert Costa Balboa will pit early. Right, let's have a look again here. And Marshall looked to the outside of Costa Balboa, and then he found that gap on the inside. Balboa didn't shut the door, and it looks like Winkelhock followed through as well. And was there a little bit of contact there? There may have been a little nudge, but Marshall, pretty polite in the grand scale of things, got through. Christopher Haase almost made it as well. So the pit window is open. Some of the cars that are hauled up behind Albert Costa Balboa may well visit the pits early to try and get out onto some clear track. You can see how quickly Marshall and Winkelhock have broken clear of Costa Balboa. You can see how far ahead the leader is, though. That is a long, long way ahead. And Marshall, 23.7 seconds back from the leader. An awful lot of work to do from there. So into the pits, and a number of cars. There is one of the KOS Team 75 Bernhard Porsches that's gone deep into turn one. Fortunately, the gravel trap that was there has been replaced by a runoff area, and the car is able to keep going on the tarmac runoff area instead of getting buried into the gravel trap. So good job done there, and survives to tell the tale, and that was Thomas Preining at the wheel of that Porsche. Right, into the pits. We thought they might pit early. This is the championship leader, Mikael Ammermuller, into the pits, handing over to Matteo Jaminet. And look at this car park in the pits. These are all the cars that were hauled up behind Albert Costa Balboa. The TalkSport WRT Mercedes having to back up in anticipation of getting out in front of the ADAC Motorsport Mercedes at the front of that queue. But a lot of these drivers that were caught up in the traffic now taking advantage of the pit window. And here we go, a bit of a race out of the pits. And good job, Lucas Stoltz in the 22 car has handed over to Mauro Engel. And out of the pits we come, the pit lane, which has moved a little bit further around since the revisions to the track. Now on the exit of turn one, here they come. Be careful not to cross the white line. To remind you that the drivers have a minimum pit stop time of 70 seconds from pit entrance to pit exit. And look how tight this was. That's the Preco Herbert Porsche getting ravelled up with the SSR Performance Porsche. And Matthias Jaminet having to back out of it to give way to Sven Muller. And there was yesterday's winner, Ricardo Feller, who's taken over from Christopher Mies in the number 29 Monteclasse by Land Audi. So you can see how tight this was, and there are potentially grounds for an unsafe release. The stewards will no doubt be looking at that. We had so many of those cars that were caught up in the traffic jam. You can see the reaction from the crew. A lot of the cars that were caught up in the traffic jam behind Costa Balboa have all pitted, and the 75 car being pushed back into the pits. So Christian Engelhardt retires along with Thomas Preining. We saw them going straight on, clearly mechanical issue that's causing that problem. The leader is still out, Dries Vanthoor, and you'd expect him to stay out quite a long time, as you would expect from Raffaele Marciello and Frank Pereira, because they've got a lot of space in front of them. And they've no reason to pit early. Marvin Kirchhofer is still out, as is Jules Gounon, Dennis Marshall, Marcus Winkelhock. The top 7 cars. We've got about half the pit window still left. And here comes our leader, Dries Vanthoor, a little over 2 seconds from Raffaele Marciello, who has about 1.5 seconds over Frank Pereira. And it will all get very confusing for a bit, because they will soon be in amongst lapped cars, some cars that have pitted, some that haven't. But soon our leaders will be in. And we're having a look at a replay here of the leader coming across the line. And you can see the traffic jam in the pits as well. So Dries Vanthoor continues to lead from Raffaele Marciello and Frank Pereira. There's the 1, 2, 3 Pereira just winding in Marchiello a little bit. 1.5 seconds is the gap. It's not all over yet. Marvin Kirchhofer starting to find Jules Gounon in his rearview mirrors. So the first 5 closing up a bit. The pit stop window is going to be very interesting when this is all done and dusted, because the front 5 cars have all yet to pit. We continue to look down the pit straight. Pleased to say the rain looks to be holding off at the moment. There's the number 22 car coming through, and that is Mauro Engel, who's taken over from Lucas Stoltz. Another of the GRT Grasser Lamborghinis coming out of the pits. And the number 99 car, Sven Muller, with Mathieu Jaminet for company. They're showing in 19th and 20th place at the moment. It's Porsche v Porsche. Jaminet taking the low line, little bit of contact with Muller, backs out of it. And of course, when the leaders have made their pit stops, it will no longer be 19th and 20th place, of course. So into the pits is the number 63 car, Albert Costa Balboa, handing over to Mirko Bortolotti. The relative peace inside the car. Just interesting transfer of information. Whatever that issue was that was causing the brakes to lock up into the corner is not terminal, but clearly a car that doesn't have the pace to make it onto the podium on this particular day. So the car sits in the pit lane with the engine off. Here comes our leader, Dries Vanthoor, still yet to pit. Marchiello's into the pits. So handing over to Maxi Book. And that is a fairly upset looking driver. Is that Albert Costa Balboa? Not looking terribly happy. Sat down with the head in hands. Marchiello's in. Maxi and into the pits and out of the car. A much taller driver than Maxi Book, so the seat insert comes out, the steering wheel's adjusted, Maxi Book is into the seat, and being careful not to go below the minimum pit stop time. We've seen drivers do it in almost every race so far, and they end up having to visit the penalty box. Now Marshall's in as well. Dennis Marshall handing over to Kim Louis Schramm. Still Vanthoor, Pereira, Kirchhofer, Gounon, Winkelhock stay out, and Hugo Sasser, who's up into 6th place. Slam the door, try not to trip over your mechanic, and away we go. And a very distraught looking Albert Costa Balboa. They were challengers for the championship coming into this weekend. They haven't had the greatest weekend, it has to be said. And Costa Balboa taking it very personally. And problems for yesterday's winner, the number 29 car, that is Ricardo Feller. He took over from Christopher Mies, and also the number 99 car, Sven Muller. Now, have they got together? We're going to have a look. They were running together on the track, and yes, they look like they've got together. So Muller has spun. Feller, an innocent party in all of that, was second in the championship coming into this race. Our leader is into the pits for the mandatory stop. So second place in the championship, Christopher Mies, Ricardo Feller, look like they are going to be at this race, and that helps Mathieu Jaminet and Mikael Ammermuller no end, because they're not having the best of afternoons either, and it means damage limitation. There's Frank Pereira into the pits, the number 19 car, handing over to Rolf Anaiken. Charles Wirt takes over from Dries Vanthoor. We ride on board with David Yarn, and that is what's caused the problem. So Ricardo Feller braking the spinning Sven Muller car. David Yarn with nowhere to go, jacks him up and sends him spinning. The pit stop window is about to close. Oh, it's all happening. Right, left and centre. Here comes Charles Wirt. He's taken over from Dries Vanthoor. Albert Costa, not Albert Costa Balboa. Frank Pereira has given away. has taken over from Rolf van Eycken. And out of the pit lane comes the GRT Grasser Lamborghini, having jumped Maxi Book, but Maxi Book has heat in the tyres, has the pace up into turn 3. The Mercedes ducks to the inside of the number 19 Lamborghini. The two cars almost rubbing against each other. It's a drag race into the corner. Maxi Book gets his elbows out. Get out of my way, he says, I'm coming through. So Maxi Book holding on to that position from Frank Pereira just. And Maxi Book doing a great job there. And it's Rolf van Eycken, not Frank Pereira. Of course, Frank Pereira's handed over to Rolf van Eycken. Our timing screen's displaying the wrong name. And the Sven Muller car is still stranded there. This means a safety car. And that is going to bring a whole new dynamic to this race, because with the Preco Herbert Porsche stranded at the side of the track, it needs to be retrieved. Safety car will come out, and all those gaps that have been built up throughout the pit stops are going to be reduced to nothing, and we are going to have a real scramble to the checkered flag. 23 minutes of this race still remaining, and yet another twist and turn, of which there are many. Circuit Zandvoort has really courted controversy this weekend, pretty well in all classes that have been racing here. The number 99 car of Sven Muller finished 4th yesterday. And you can see that Muller was spinning. And Feller got out of it and was jacked up by the number 91 car. This is a replay of Maxi Book and Rolf van Eycken running side by side for that position up the blind crest. A little bit of rubbing, and you have to have a lot of courage to get your foot planted in it at that kind of speed, particularly heading up towards the next corner, which is Scheivlak, which is also a blind crest. So with the safety car out, great reactions. You're never safe from the cameras in this place, are you? So the incident that we saw is under investigation, as you would expect. With the safety car out, a little over 20 minutes plus one lap of this race remaining. Very sad to see the second place in the championship, Ricardo Feller and Christopher Mies, their car coming back into the pit lane with what looks like pretty terminal damage to me. The Monteplas by Land Motorsport Audi. And, well, it's a puncture. The question is it anything more than that? A quick inspection. Tyre changes not allowed unless there is a puncture or it rains. They don't look in too much of a hurry to sort it out, do they? There's a bit of the car in his hand as well. And it really is looking terminal for the Monteplas by Land Audi. Which is such bad news, because they did such a good job yesterday. They won the race from pole position, moved up to second in the championship. And this really is a get-out-of-jail-free card for the SSR Performance team, because Mathieu Jaminet is down in 12th place, which is a pretty good progress, considering, as we look at Sven Muller, sat at the side of the track. But the 92 car, and there we see it was contact with an Audi that caused it to go spinning. Feller really just had nowhere to go, and then got collected from behind by David Yarn. And whether Yarn has got away without any damage remains to be seen. Here we go, and oof, and that's quite an impact. So whilst we're behind the safety car, let's just review where we're at. It's Charles Witt who leads the way from Maxi Book. There's Rolf van Eycken And Jeffrey Schmidt, Igor Velilko in the Zaxby Mercedes ahead of Kim Louis Schramm. Mauro Engel in 7th ahead of Florian Spengler, having a good race. Lucas Andre Treves, who's taken over from Christopher Haase, in 9th place. Then Yusuf Awega in the brightly coloured Phoenix Racing Audi. Then Mirko Bortolotti in the struggling Lamborghini in 11th ahead of Matteo Jaminet, championship leader, who has taken over from Mikael Ammermuller. Simon Riker is in 13th, Max Paul in 14th, and Yanis Fitcher rounding out the top 15. All drivers have had their mandatory pit stop. The safety car is in on this lap. We have got a little over, well, it's about 19 minutes and 20 seconds plus 1 lap to the end of this race. It ain't all over yet. Charles Witt's lead that he had has now been whittled down to nothing. Maxi Book has got the sniff of victory in his nostrils, and Rolf van Eycken is thinking something similar too. And don't forget that growling Corvette in 4th place, driven by Jeffrey Schmidt. So no further action from that incident that we saw, and that seems fair because Ricardo Feller really did have nowhere to go. So here we go. Charles Witt backing the field up, letting the safety car get away and deciding to go fairly early up in towards Kumo into Arie Luijendijk. And then it's full beans out along the pit straight, trying to break the toe from Maxi Book. And here we come into Tarzan, and drivers weaving, actually looking probably to try and get some heat into the tyres. The Mauro Engel Top Sport Mercedes weaving a fair bit as well. The temperature has dropped here, but it's Charles Witt who leads the way, looking for their first podium and their first win of the season. We listen to the cars. Great shot that is, as they're come bumping over the curbing, and you hear the growl of the individual cars coming through. Wonderful noise and something to behold. If you've never been to a GT Masters event, it's well worth the effort. The ground shakes when this lot comes past. So, looking back at our championship leaders, Matteo Jaminet from the perspective of Mirko Bortolotti, and now looking the other way. It's from Jaminet towards Bortolotti. There's another car locking up into the corner, and that is still Bortolotti. So that problem that Albert Costa Balboa was carrying is still very much present in that Lamborghini. Smoking into the corner, Matteo Jaminet going to be looking for an opportunity to get past. And you can see that lock up there into the chicane. And again, it's that right rear that appears to be locking up under braking and into Hans Ernst corner. So 33 of Kim Louis Schramm and Mauro Engel, and Engel has found a route past Schramm and into 6th place. So Mauro Engel moving up 1, and now has Igor Velilko up the road ahead of him. It'll be Mercedes versus Mercedes. So here we see again the route that Mauro Engel used to get past Kim Louis Schramm. Made it look quite easy coming out of turn 2 up into the banking of turn 3. Still plenty of action further down the field as Daniel Karlowitz, who had that big impact with the fence yesterday, and David Jahn. Jahn has found a route past Karlowitz. And ahead of Karlowitz is Tim Zimmerman in the other GRT Grasser Lamborghini, and Yanis Fitcher. Maximilian Paul, who took over from Hugo Sassa in the Lamborghini further ahead, currently in the points, which they'll be pretty pleased about. The young team looking to gain experience. It's still Charles Witt that leads the way. round the banking they come. Full chap on to the pit straight. Charles Witt with 0.8 of a second over Maxi Book, so he's not exactly getting away with it. Now Matteo Jaminet trying to make a move past Mirko Bortolotti. Still that Lamborghini is resolute in not giving up that position. And Matteo Jaminet, in doing so, very nearly surrenders the place to Simon Riker. Number 54 car, the Yakko Racing Audi R8. And Max Paul is there as well. Maximilian Paul, who encountered the gravel trap yesterday at qualifying, looking to make amends and move forwards in this pack. And you can see again that issue with the braking really smoking it. The tyres must be absolutely destroyed on that Lamborghini, but still he holds on. And Simon Riker very nearly made it past Matteo Jaminet and into 12th place. Looking from Matteo Jaminet's car, you can see the perspective, and you can see he was heading towards the gravel trap if he didn't back out of it. So through Hans Ernst once again, turn 11, turn 12. And the story of this race has been very much that Lamborghini, which has been causing problems, with clearly carrying an incident and causing the cars behind to really struggle to get past. 0.9 is Charles Witt's lead over Maxi Book, and then about 2 seconds back to Rolf van Eiken. The 1, 2, 3 in this race. Jeffrey Schmidt in 4th place in the Callaway's competition Corvette. And Mauro Engel taking quite a different line up around turn 3, trying to outfox Igor Velilko in front. Velilko in 5th place, Engel in 6th. So through this series of corners, not much change at the moment. We've lost 6 cars from this race. On board with Matteo Jaminet, championship leaders, currently in 12th place, so in the points, but not massively so. But with many of their main challengers, in fact all of their main challengers, falling by the wayside, finishing where they are, they're actually going to extend their championship lead. The real winners in the championship battle, if things stay as they are, will be Maxi Book and Raffaele Marciello. They're in 5th place coming into this race. There was some 30 points behind the lead duo. And again, smoking the brakes into the corner. Matteo Jaminet, so frustratingly close. Sees a gap on the inside, takes a different line through turn 3, trying to out-drag out of turn 3. But that Lamborghini carrying more speed on the higher section of that corner. Minutes plus 1 lap of this race left remaining, and again you see a puff of smoke from Mirko Bortolotti breaking into the corner. You can see the line, you can see how much higher everybody else is going. Matteo Jaminet tried something different, but it's more speed that's being carried up towards that white line at the top of the corner. Maxi Book can see Charles Witt in front. Charles Witt has about 1.2 seconds, so not exactly running away with it. Then it's Rolf van Eiken, then Jeffrey Schmidt, then Igor Velilko, then Mauro Engel, Kim Louis Schramm. Charles Witt is our highest placed junior driver, leading the race. And our highest placed trophy driver is Rolf Nijken in 3rd place. So those are points going towards the Trophy Championship and the Junior Championship. And here we go again to the outside. Mathieu Jaminet into Tarzan, turn 1, trying to go the long way round. This time makes it stick and takes that position away. It's been a long time coming, but finally Mirko Bortolotti is relegated that position. Now is he going to try and come back at a turn 3? Jaminet up into 11th place, relegating Mirko Bortolotti down to 12th. So Mathieu Jaminet continuing to move forward. Next up the road is Youssef Awega. And here is the perspective from Jaminet, hanging it out, going into Tarzan, turn 1. Bortolotti staying down low. The two cars running side by side, avoiding any contact. And then around turn 2, Jaminet is able to get the power on and sweep around and in towards the banking of turn 3. And Bortolotti does try and come back, but has nothing that he can bring to that Porsche. So our championship leaders finally find a route past. Now, how quickly can Jaminet dispatch Youssef Awega in the number 4 Phoenix Racing Audi? And then ahead of Awega is Lucasandro Treves. And Lucasandro Treves having by far his best race of the season so far, in 9th place, having taken over Christopher Haase. A little over 8 minutes left of this race. Still Charles Weert, 1.2 seconds clear of Maxi Boot. Maxi Boot clearly hasn't given up on this yet. You can see Jaminet once again trying that different line through turn 3 on Youssef Awega. Youssef Awega graduated from ADAC GT4 this year and has done a good job. The highest that he has finished so far has been a 10th place, and that was at the season opener in Oschersleben. Currently in 10th place, so looking good to equal that if he can keep Mathieu Jaminet behind him. And with Christopher Haase as a teammate, that is a great mentor to have as you learn the ropes in GT racing. Through the Hans Ernst chicane, the 3 yellow and black cars all glued together. Youssef Awega, Mathieu Jaminet, and ahead of them Lucasandro Treves. Behind them Mirko Bortolotti. Simon Riker really not got anything to add to that, and struggling to put any real challenge onto Mirko Bortolotti. So 12th place is probably about where Bortolotti will end up if things stay as they are. Here comes Charles Weert. Looks to have this very much under control. Maxi Boot has suddenly lost about a second to Charles Weert. 2.63 seconds is the gap last time around. So Maxi Boot potentially had a bit of a problem. A lockup went wide, but that's given Charles Weert breathing room. Rolf Nijken about 3 seconds behind Maxi Boot, and about 1.3 seconds behind Rolf Nijken is Jeffrey Schmidt in the Callaway Competition Corvette. So you can see ahead of Mathieu Jaminet is Youssef Awega in 10th place. And Jaminet looks to the inside of Awega. Mathieu Jaminet, an ex-champion in GT Masters, looks to the inside, finds a gap and sails through. So it's another place for the SSR Performance Porsche. So having dealt with Youssef Awega, it's another GT4 graduate, Lucasandro Treves, next up the road for Mathieu Jaminet. He's got about 5 minutes to do something about that. 5.5 minutes plus 1 lap. So Jaminet up to 10th place. And that is going to be 6 points. 6 very useful points as they look to extend their championship lead. This is the view on board from Chamonix. You can see a gap on the inside. Awega, to be fair, doesn't put up too much of a fight. Down to 11th place, Chamonix up 10th. We're into the final 5 minutes of this race. The rain has held off. Charles Vitt continues to lead, 2.7 seconds over Maxi Book, so about another 10th on that last lap. Rolf Nyken in 3rd, Jeffrey Schmidt in 4th, then it's Igor Vililko, Mauro Engel, Kim Louis Schramm, Florian Spengler, Lucasando Treves, and then this man here, Mathieu Chamonix, championship leader, down in 10th place. So Lucasando Treves now feeling the heat of Mathieu Chamonix, vastly more experience, a little bit of a tap there into the corner. Tries to unsettle the number 28 car. He holds it all together. Lucasando Treves really putting his skills to the test with the might of Mathieu Chamonix in the SSR Performance Porsche, filling his rear view mirrors. Chamonix in an Audi sandwich, but certainly looking the quicker. And Mirko Bortolotti appears to have caught up with this group. So that Lamborghini that had been struggling so much down in 12th place is suddenly up with these cars as well. So here comes Chamonix to the outside into turn 1. Lucasando Treves just holding on to that racing line, keeping it all together into Tarzan. 3.5 minutes is what he's got to hold on to this position, which is 9th place. Mathieu Chamonix go for that, what is now becoming almost trademark low line through turn 3. Youssef Awega keeping in contact as well, hasn't given up or trying to get past Mathieu Chamonix and back into the top 10. And Mathieu Chamonix, if he makes a move on Lucasando Treves and it doesn't stick, stands to let Youssef Awega back through. Less than 3 minutes left of this race. There's a bit of debris on the track. I don't know if that was there already or whether somebody has been through one of the advertising hoardings. There was half a Pirelli sign there. We've lost so many of those over this weekend. I think they're going to have to print some more for the next event. So Mathieu Chamonix still lining up Lucasando Treves. 10th place for our championship leader. Treves in 9th. Youssef Awega just behind. Then it's Mirko Bortolotti, who's found a little bit of pace in the closing stages of this race. Again, Chamonix looking to the inside of Awega. In towards turn 13, the Kumo turn. Then it's flat out up into turn 14. Picking up the slipstream as they head along the pit straight. And then the challenge into turn 1, the Tarzan turn. Will he go to the inside? Will he go to the outside? It's to the outside, under braking. Lucasando Treves holding it all together, not locking anything up. But Mathieu Chamonix has the pace, sweeps around the outside. And that's another place. That's 9th place for Mathieu Chamonix, the championship leaders, working their way back through the field after that bad qualifying session. A real textbook overtake here at Zandvoort, using the banking, the camber of turn 1, the slipstream effect, using everything all together to make that move and sweep past into 9th place. This is the view from Mathieu Chamonix. He goes to the outside. Lucasando Treves keeps it cool, doesn't lock it up. And Mathieu Chamonix comes through and takes that position away. Mauro Engel in P6 with Kim Louis Schramm for company. And behind Kim Louis Schramm is Florian Spengler. So Mauro Engel causing a little bit of a traffic jam behind P6. And there is quite a queue there, so I wonder whether Mauro Engel is starting to struggle. Has he taken too much out of the tyres? And an incident between car 3 and 91 under investigation, but we're looking here at Mathieu Chamonix, who continues his route forwards. Looking at the back of the Florian Spengler car. And so this is 8th place. So Chamonix really using the last few moments of this race to good effect. Florian Spengler holding on to that position, goes wide into the corner, shuts the door, and Mathieu Chamonix doing everything that he can. Lucas Arda Treves getting 2 wheels onto the dirt behind. And Yusuf Oega also in there as well. Up deep into the corner goes Mauro Engel. So the Mercedes going deep. He's onto the dirt, loses a lot of places. There's bodywork falling off. Mauro Engel, who was in 6th place, losing a load of places, having gone wide. A penalty lap for car 3 for forcing another car off the track. That's Daniel Karvitz. That's a long way down, up into turn 3. That's where we're interested. And you can see that Florian Spengler gives Mauro Engel a bit of a nudge onto the grass, and the stewards might have something to say about that. We are into the very closing stages of this race, so there may well be a revision to the result once this is over if the stewards suspect that a crime has been committed. Some would say that Spengler was just taking the racing line out of the corner. Mauro Engel, another of our main championship challengers, losing several places out of turn 3 as a result of that impact. And the number 82, Tim Zimmermann, was down in 15th place. Also looks to be in trouble. So Tim Zimmermann also in the wars. And here is a replay, getting together with Daniel Karvitz. And Karvitz really has been getting down and dirty with it this weekend. Ended up in the barriers in the first race. And getting together with the 82 car in this race. Right, we're on to the final lap. And there's another car into the gravel. That's not Mathieu Chamonix, is it? Our championship leader, Mathieu Chamonix. It looks like there may be a problem. So Chamonix getting together with the 69 car and spinning around into the gravel. So all of that hard work from Mathieu Chamonix and Florian Spengler. So high drama, the championship leader, when it looked like they were in a position to really open up that championship lead. Some brilliant driving from Mathieu Chamonix. And it all comes to nothing because he's spun and into the gravel. I don't know how many places he's lost or whether he's been able to rejoin. We will see shortly. Meanwhile, our race leader, Charles Witt, he's had a fairly peaceful day compared to the rest of them. He took over from Dries Vanthoor after the mandatory pit stop and driver change. He's been looking for that first win of the season for some time now. And here he comes around turn 14. That final win is now in sight. It's Charles Witt, who along with Dries Vanthoor crossed the lines first to win in the Team WRT Audi R8 for race 2 here at round 3 of the ADAC GT Masters at Zandvoort. Maxi Book across the line in second. Rolf van Eycken in 3rd place. Just looking there, our championship leader Mathieu Chamonix still stranded at the side of the track. So it's going to be a no score for the 92 SSR Performance Porsche. The day when they really looked as though they could cash in on everybody else's misfortune. You can see getting together with Florian Spengler into the corner. And their race is brought to a halt. So controversial in the closing stages. And all of the drivers behind in the championship breathe a sigh of relief. The big winners in all of this are going to be Maxi Book and Raffaele Marciello. We can see again in turn 1. And it looks as though Chamonix has got the move made. And then contact with Spengler and spinning off into the gravel. Spengler coming home to finish in 7th place. And probably better that we can't hear what he's saying in the cockpit there, because it's probably not going to be very polite. Mathieu Chamonix, a few words in French that we probably wouldn't want to repeat. So the winner of race 2 for the weekend here in Zandvoort, Charles Witt and Dries Vanthoor, ahead of Maxi Book and Raffaele Marciello, Rolf van Eycken, Frank Pereira, rounding out the top 3 on the podium. What an eventful race that was. The stewards are going to be busy into the night here. This result most definitely provisional, because I think there are several things that are going to need to be looked at. Certainly the 92 and 69 collision is under investigation. Also, the 69 and 22 incident is under investigation. So Florian Spengler in the number 69 car collection motorsport Audi, very much under the spotlight by the stewards. So no doubt about the winner though, it's Charles Wirtz. Been looking for that first race of the season. Had so far not even finished on the podium. 5th place yesterday and a 5th place at the Red Bull Ring were the best they'd managed. But Dries Van Tor, a man who is very much on form, and Charles Wirtz, a driver who has come up through the ranks, and is the son of Yves Wirtz, the co-founder of the team WRT. He is the W in WRT. Here comes Rolf van Eiken. Good run for Rolf van Eiken. His best so far had been a 5th place. So congratulations between the teammates. Picks him up high, and they will be delighted with that. That finally gets their season up and running, and with the championship leaders, Mathieu Jaminet and Mikael Ammermuller scoring 0 points. That really does bring things alive. Christopher Mees, Ricardo Feller will be fairly disappointed that they couldn't score in that race, as indeed will Nick Yellerly and Jesse Krohn, because they were 2nd and 3rd coming into this. So just 7 points. Marciello and Buch have closed up on that championship. Mees and Feller just 13 points behind. So at one point it was looking like Jaminet and Ammermuller were going to walk off with this title, but suddenly it's all to play for. One DNF and suddenly the points are turned upside down. We've seen it in the past. It's consistent finishes that win championships. Bortolotti and Costa Balboa only 13 points off. Kirchhofer and Jeffrey Schmidt also well in the running as well. So this is good news for Maxi Buch and Raffaele Marciello, who were seeing the championship getting away from them a little bit after a non-finish in race 2 at Oschersleben and a fairly lackluster weekend in the Red Bull Ring. But other people's misfortune has brought them back into play, and this championship looks set to go all the way to the last race of the season. So Lucas Sandro Treves, presume that's his girlfriend, sincerely hope so, receiving the congratulations. And Rolf van Eiken and Frank Pereira in the number 19 GRT Grasser Lamborghini. Another strong performance from that Lamborghini. Really has been the car on form over these last couple of events. So we lost a lot of cars in this. We lost Mathieu Jaminet, we lost Tim Zimmerman, David Jahn, Maximilian Paul, Ricardo Feller, Hacklander, Muller, Pranian, Krohn and Kaffer. But 3rd place went to that GRT Grasser Lamborghini Huracan with Rolf van Eiken and Frank Pereira at the wheel. 2nd place back straight into the championship hunt, Manfilter Team Landgraf, Maxi Buch and Raffaele Marciello in the Mercedes AMG GT3. And for Team WRT, Charles Wirtz and Dries Van Tor in the Audi R8 LMS. So it's Audi from Mercedes, from Lamborghini, from Corvette. So 4 different manufacturers in the top 4.
Complimenti Terone. Cazzo che partenza hai fatto, figa, ma volavi, sì.
So into the podium presentation area shortly. This is just before that. The very tall Raffaele Marciello will be joined by Maxi Buch there. and they just compare notes. So not much to learn there, mainly because I can't speak German, but an entertaining race all around. So Raffaele Marciello and Maxi Bug won the season opener at Oschersleben. Then they were involved in an accident in race 2 and didn't finish.
Shit, I didn't know that you were behind after the pit stop.
And then a 4th place and a 10th place at the Red Bull Ring. Not quite what they're expecting. A 9th place yesterday. And finally, a 2nd place today to get them on the podium again. Charles Witz and Raffaele Marciello were a long way down in the championship coming into this race, down in 13th in the championship, just 21 points. So that would have done them the power of good. So Charles Witz and Dries Van Tor. So we're just waiting now for the podium presentation. I can tell you that car 69 has received a 15-second time penalty for pushing another car off the track. Now, whether that was Mauro Engel or whether that was Matteo Jaminet, it doesn't say, but that's Florian Spengler, who's got a 15-second time penalty, which takes him out of the points to 16th place, and fairly poetically moves Mauro Engel into the points in 15th place. So the stewards have got their work cut out, looking at all the various things, keep an eye on the screens in case we have any more penalties awarded. And we will, very hopefully, very shortly, be able to bring you a podium presentation. I think we're still waiting for Charles Witz and Dries Van Tor. And here they come. Always a bit nerve-wracking having drivers talk going out live because you never know what they're going to say. So we'll just keep talking over them just in case. And good to see. Congratulations amongst each other. So we're now getting ready for the podium presentation. It's Charles Witz and Dries Van Tor for Team WRT, who come out onto the podium very, very shortly up the steps. Charles Witz, the highest finished junior driver as well.
Für den Aussieger, für das Team von WRT, auf das Podium Charles Witz und Dries Van Tor.
And here we go, onto the podium, Charles Witz and Dries Van Tor. The top step of the podium. Maxi Bug and Raffaele Marciello. And for GRT Grasser Racing, 3rd place from Pereira and Ralph Van Eycken. They get to bring the kids up as well, which is a nice touch. Team WRT, Morgan Billaveda, who receives the trophy for them. And now we have the national anthem. So that's the national anthem done.
Die Trophäe für Charles Werts und
And now the ADAC Sports President, Gerd Enzer, the new ADAC Sports President, presents the unique trophies. Great looking trophies. And better than any trophy, Maxi Buch and Raffaele Marciello will be delighted that their championship challenge is well and truly back on track. Rolf Nijken and Frank Pereira getting their trophy. And then Team WRT get a trophy as well.
Glückwunsch an Team WRT.
So we quickly pose for photographs. We take a look at that championship. How good does that look? We like it nice and close because we want to see this go to the end and 7 points. Well, that could be won and lost in a race easily between Marciello and Buch, Albert Costa Balboa, and Mirko Bortolotti very much in there as well, as are Mies Feller, Kirchhofer, Schmid, Yellerly and Krohn. It has closed up. That non-finish for Matteo Jaminet has thrown this championship wide open.